St.Xavier's College in Mumbai is home to a tradition of education that many consider a benchmark. It's seen as one of the best examples of Catholic-run educational institutions in the country. With its accomplished alumni and academic record, it has been a pit stop for world leaders looking to get up close with the youth of India. In today's troubled times, it seems to be an apt place to have a conversation on faith. With religions seemingly pitted against each other, I wonder how youngsters today regard religion, if they regard it at all. Father Frazer Mascarenhas, a sociologist who has been running the college for 12 years now, is the man I'm hoping will have some answers.
I was wondering if the kind of conflict that you're seeing between the major religions of the world, whether you see what is happening in Syria, what is happening in Iraq, whether you see the kind of the killing of students in Peshawar in Pakistan, school students, in India, you see Hindu right-wing groups, creating this atmosphere of conflict. What reaction is that eliciting from young people, you think? Is there a crisis of faith because of this? Because if religion is about hate, then what am I going to believe in?
I don't think young people are being fooled by that, because religion precisely is about meaning and even ultimate meaning, which is what religion is about. And young people, once they discover true religion, are not really sidetracked in this manner. The problems that we are seeing are really economic and political. So there are groups economically and politically who have been dominating other groups, and those are reacting. And there is now, an interchange of power. And they are using, unfortunately, religion, which is totally not what religion is about. So I really think it's the misuse of religion. I'll give you an example. We have here in college, the normal value education. Now, as part of that, we have interreligious sensitivity and awareness. Now, once the students begin to hear from the other the faith sharing, what does their religion really mean? They find it so beautiful.
We've just seen the attack on a magazine, Charlie Hebdo, in Paris, which seems to be because the magazine was satirical, not only of Islam, but all religions and all establishment in a sense. Are you saying that what we are seeing as being done in the name of religion is actually politics and actually commerce?
I think so. I think there are power groups, political and economic groups that are clashing. They're making use of religious symbolism, they're making use of, religion as such, actually a total divorce. For example, many of the radicals are not really religious. They don't believe in religion or in God. They are using that. A person who is truly religious will not go in for violence and for this type. It cannot, because it just goes against the very essence of religion.
So then if we hear statements of the ISIS establishing a caliphate.
Absolutely, that's a political unit, right? Yeah. So that's precisely, they are making use of religious symbolism, religious groups, religious identity for political and economic domination, and it's happening here.
How do you wrest the narrative away from all these groups which are misusing religion for political and commercial ends?
I think it's analysis, really. It's analysis and making people conscious of really what is happening. So, for example, you have to give a social and political and economic analysis to people. You have to make them understand what true religion is about. For example, the class that I talked about is doing that. And we have, core courses, for example, in our autonomous college, other colleges too have something similar, which are doing social analysis and are trying to get young people and others to become aware of really where the crux lies. What is the flashpoint? So I really think, civil society has a very strong part to play. Especially in today's India, we don't have, and it has been trumpeted, we don't have an opposition today. There's no political opposition. Even if there were to be a strong opposition, civil society in a democracy has an important part to play. So I do think that the type of policies that governments across the world, it's not any particular government. I'm not really, targeting the Modi government or the BJP government, because if you look, what has the Modi government done is done what the Manmohan Singh government had already instituted, perhaps in a step forward. So I really do not think it's any political party. It is really the type of strategy for development and the whole model of development which brings or does not bring, well-being to people, to human beings. That has to be questioned.
My sense is that your interpretation of the Ghar Wapsi campaign, 6 months before that, Love Jihad, are you saying that these are all little diversions away from the main issues, substantive issues of real development, of real widespread prosperity, of widespread, just basic facilities for human beings?
Yes, I think so. I won't discount the fact that there will be fringe groups in every religion, whether it's Christianity or Hinduism or Islam, that have religious fundamentalism at their core. So those are being made use of by others who are really interested in political and economic power. And the whole economic and the development model, that is something that we need to concentrate on. The present model, I think, is really going to be disastrous for the country. The present model, for example, is disastrous for environment. At a time when the environment, the whole world is screaming that it is on the precipice. But no, we have to do development, and therefore we have to relax all those laws. The laws that were even, for very critical areas of polluted areas in our country, those have been relaxed. Environmental laws are being relaxed, left, right, and center.
New amendments to the Land Acquisition
Yes, that's
Act,
another.
and
that's another
too via the ordinance route.
That's right. Yeah, and labor laws. These are all very disturbing signs for people who would like to take, the majority of our countrymen and women forward. For example, it's such a ridiculous situation that such a large percentage of our population are in abject poverty. Now, the previous government had to have for 60%, the Food Security Act. And that was not just a political thing. The people were really, in need of it. And such a large percentage, what does that mean? Does it not mean that the economics has not worked? Economics should be providing food, not, the government doling it out. But we have reached emergency situations as far as, people's sustenance is concerned. That's why the high level of violence already.
So the argument that many people, especially the business class, made when they voted for the BJP or endorsed the BJP government or Mr. Modi so openly before the elections, that the moment you have minimal governance, the moment you have laws which facilitate business, opens up the economy, you see investment, and it starts off a virtuous cycle which sees growth and therefore job opportunities and therefore income opportunities and therefore people moving out of poverty. You do not buy that argument at all?
I think nobody in their right senses will agree anymore to the trickle-down effect theory, I can't imagine, a thinking person still continuing to defend that. We have a history all over the world, in South America, in the US itself. In India, we have a very strong evidence that the trickle-down doesn't work. I do think that, business and, industry has to be given its share. But there needs to be, something that moderates. The needs of the poor have to be taken into consideration. For example, if you relax labor laws are already very lax in India. If you relax them further, I think it's very clear that 93% they say of labor today is in the unorganized sector. Now you're going to even make that even worse. So what's going to happen to our poor people? I do not buy into the trickle-down theory and this question of virtuous cycle. You do need to encourage production and the generation of wealth, but as you do that, you have to have already strategies in place which will empower people. Otherwise, the fruits of development will continue to accrue to those who control what development is about. grassroots participation in decision making is absolutely essential.
How unusual is the fact that you make your views known in the context of being a member of the society, a Jesuit priest, or being an educationist? Is that unusual? Are you a little bit of a, how shall I say, an outlier?
Well, I wouldn't know whether I'm an outlier, but I do think...
Do you get into trouble?
Not really trouble, but of course I do get criticism, and I did get quite a bit of hate mail around the election time. But I got also a lot of support. And it is really generating debate, generating reflection that all of us should be busy with. So, if I make a statement about something and people react to that, but they react in a democratic manner, I think society will move forward.
Father Frazer, a lot is being talked in India. The media tends to make a big deal about it, and there is this general perception that maybe the media is contributing to that. It's when Prime Minister Narendra Modi makes a statement from that bully pulpit of his that things will get done or people will get galvanized, and he talks about everything. Nothing is too trivial for him, right? So whether it is cleanliness, toilets, drug abuse, he's talking about everything, and these are all good things. How important is it to hear him make a statement about what, let's say, certain BJP MPs, right-wing groups affiliated to the BJP are making, the statements that they are making, which is causing insecurity, which is causing discomfort and distress amongst people of minority religions? Do you think it's important for him to say something?
I have another take on that, I don't think a statement is all that important. Sometimes statements can be counterproductive, but action is required. Now, I have not seen that action yet, but I think we have to give this government time. So whether Mr. Modi makes a statement or not, because he's made lots of statements which have not been really acted upon, and the results are not yet there to see. So whether a particular person makes a statement or not, I don't think it's so important. But whether he acts on things that need to be acted on, which is what good governance is, which has been promised, I think there we need to, hold the present government to, or any government to. For example, the Ghar Wapisi program. Now, there is already a strong law against conversions on the basis of, fraud or coercion or whatever.
Of course. And this is, but in states, Father Frazer, I think in Madhya Pradesh and Odisha have enacted these laws.
But even the ordinary law of the land makes it clear that this is illegal.
And yet the BJP ministers, in fact, Mr. Venkaiah Naidu in Parliament, in Lok Sabha, was suggesting that an anti-conversion law
yes,
at the
it's a diversionary tactic, I think. This is my interpretation.
At
it's
the
just
center
diversion.
Would sort of stop all these
You are
Ghar
diverting
Wapsi
the
attempts.
attention of people to, more serious issues of economics, etc. Whereas here, if there is conversion according to, coercion or whatever, let the law of the land act. There is already law in place. There is no question about that.
So
and
you
if the law,
you don't need an anti-conversion law at the center.
No, you don't need a law. We already have. Otherwise, our lawmakers have been defaulting. What I think is required is the application of the law, and there cannot be obviously any law to ban conversions. It will go against all human rights, and we subscribe to the international, the UDHR human rights, which the UN has mandated. So there is no question of an anti-conversion law. There isn't. So it is only a diversionary tactic, which I think is unfortunate.
But Father Frazer, what about the common man, the poor and exploited, who is actually in the crosshairs of all this politics around religion and conversion? They will not understand this because for lack of education, for lack of certain exposure, they are just caught in this crosshair, and they'll continue to be exactly where they were, isn't it? But for them, would it not be a matter of insecurity?
I think it would be a matter of insecurity for all, and therefore we need to get our act right, especially with the media. So no good development will happen unless there's conscientization of people, unless you have a mobilization of the masses. And that is what we need. We need people, poor, rich, etc., to come out and say, this is the type of development, this is the type of quality of life that we want. It doesn't serve anybody's purpose to have religious conflict. The quality of life of all will suffer grievously. So it's really, you know, mobilizing people to understand what will bring a good quality of life to the general public that we need to highlight.
Do you see this this agenda of creating religious conflict, of stirring all these things up in various forms, like I said, whether it's love jihad or ghar wapsi, do you see this as a continuing hallmark over the next 5 years or 4 years of this government?
I don't know, really, I have no idea, and I hope not. I hope we can get down to, you know, really discussing what is it that will give a better quality of life to the average Indian, and especially the disadvantaged, because we have to take care of them.
You know, Father, I went to a convent school, and my experience of Christianity and the sisters who ran my school has been, how shall I say, it has just been extremely positive. I have felt no attempt to become a Christian, and I haven't felt no desire to become a Christian. I've never felt anybody wanting for me to become a Christian, and yet it has given me a wider sense of the world. But my question to you is that while Christians and missionaries especially are seen as doing excellent work across the country and in urban and rural and tribal areas, places where even government doesn't reach, at the same time, the underlying principle of the faith is to bring more people into the fold, isn't it? So then is conversion inbuilt into the way missionaries work?
Anybody doing religious work is sharing meaning, and that meaning enriches someone else. For example, one of the popes, I think it was John Paul II, came to India, and in his characteristic style, he bent down and he kissed the ground of India, and he says, "I've come here to learn from the rich religious tradition of the Indian people." Now, do you think he is not come to bear witness to his beliefs and his meaning? No, he has. But it is an interchange. We grow from understanding, the meaning systems that each other the traditions of one another have. And that is precisely what the so-called missionaries are about. They are about giving witness to what they have found is meaningful. Now it is open to the conscience of someone else like you, as you said. You did not feel any desire or any compulsion to convert, but you found that dialogue enriching. I have found the dialogue with tribal religions because I have studied tribals. My PhD is on the tribals of Maharashtra. I found that very enriching for my own spiritual life, for my own understanding of God, and so also Hinduism. So I am ready to witness, and I would be very happy. I have got something which I think is very good. I'd like you to know about it. That's what missionaries are about. They are about a mission to convey meaning. And we leave it to the conscience of the other if
they find the same meaning and accept that same meaning.
If they appropriate that meaning, or if they just get enriched, or if they say, absolutely no, this is not my way of looking at life.
You mentioned Pope John Paul II, but the present Pope, Pope Francis, has been actually getting a lot of attention because of the kind of statements he's been making ever since he came into the Vatican in March 2013, the first Jesuit priest to have that role. Do you think it's time for religions, the major world religions, to adapt and to change and to sort of organically evolve with the times that they are in? Because some of the statements Pope Francis has been making just seem like he's a man who belongs to the 21st century. You know, I mean, there are lots of statements. If someone is gay and is searching for the Lord and has goodwill, then who am I to judge him? The problem is not having this tendency. No, we must be brothers and sisters to one another. The problem is making a lobby of this tendency, a lobby of misers, a lobby of politicians, a lobby of masons, so many lobbies. Time for religion to have more leaders like this who seem to be relevant to the times we live in?
I think, you know, it's an action of God that we've had a Pope like Pope Francis, because I think you're aware that in our tradition, a Pope never retires. For years, no Pope has retired.
But,
whereas Benedict, yeah, he stepped down on his own. So it was really an act of God. It's an action of what we call the Holy Spirit, of God acting in our world. So we have a person whom God has chosen to do a renewal of the church, and renewal is absolutely essential for every religious tradition, for at every period of time, and especially when times are changing, the whole context of our lives are changing. Religion has to adapt. So I'm grateful that present Pope, and I think also the popes of the past did it in their own way. But I would agree that Pope Francis is being quite revolutionary, and it's the need of the hour. Now, as far as his statements about the poor are concerned, that is precisely, you know, what Jesus came to talk to us about. He sided with the marginalized. He sided with those who are not in power. And that's what our calling is as Christians, and definitely as Jesuits. We see that as a very strong part of our mission. We call it the option for the poor. Now, without the option for the poor, we would not be Jesuits. And that is coming out, you know, from the personality of the present Pope. That all of us really have to be, you know, attentive to the weakest. The strong can fend for themselves. It's really those at the margins that require our help, require attention, require inclusion. And if governments and religions could come together, I think we would have already a paradise. We have all the wherewithal, we have all the resources are available, it's just a will.
You use two words, revolutionary and renewal, in the context of what is happening in the Catholic Church now that Pope Francis is the Pope. As someone who is part of the order, who's part of the church, how do you personally react to this, you know, to revolutionary change, to renewal, like you said? How important is it for you?
Well,
to be able to keep your faith?
Yeah, I'm also a sociologist, and
yes,
I realize that, you know, a social group has its own social dynamics, you know. So there will be oppositions, there will be people who will not be in sync with things that are moving forward. But you do need people to lead, you do need people to move forward and take new initiatives. Without that, there will be no progress. So I see the church, at least, you know, in personal terms, as going through that churning, which is absolutely required for any social group. And I'm very hopeful that, you know, things will continue to improve, and the church will really meet the needs of people, especially those who are vulnerable, those who are on the margins, bring them into an inclusive society. And that's where my, you know, pet theme of civil society comes in. Religious groups, other groups, you know, of civil society have all a part to play, and not just leave it up to the industrialists and the politicians. No. We have to also, you know, vocalize, yes, and say this is the type of development that we want. If we don't do that, then we don't have a democracy.
Right. Father Frazer, good talking to you, and I must say I appreciate the way you keep on point, which is the development argument. I hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.